The battlefield was quiet, but it was not peaceful. Broken machines lay scattered across the valley. Smoke drifted in long streams and the ground was black from fire and ash. The air carried the sharp smell of burned metal, mixed with the faint sound of distant wind moving through ruined towers. Once this outpost had been full of voices, orders, and life. Now it was silent, a grave of both human and Tereth soldiers. Ryan moved carefully among the wreckage. He was a soldier of the human fleet, trained to fight, trained to obey, but he had never grown used to the aftermath of war. His boots crunched on glass and broken stone. His eyes scanned for movement, but nothing stirred. The battle was over, yet danger still lingered. Enemies could hide among ruins, and hidden devices could still explode without warning. He stopped at the remains of a wall that had half collapsed. The marks of weapons were clear across its surface. This had been a hard fight. The Tereth were strong, their machines powerful, and they never surrendered easily. Many times Rian had heard commanders say that the Tereth were not like humans, that they were a cold and ruthless species. They fought as if their lives meant nothing. Yet when he looked at the ruins now, he only saw broken lives on both sides. The wind shifted and he thought he heard something. It was faint, almost like a whisper. He held his weapon ready and crouched low, listening. Again the sound came, and this time he knew it was not the wind. It was softer, more fragile. It sounded like a cry. Ryan hesitated. No order had been given to search for enemies. His mission was only to confirm that the outpost was empty of threats. If there were survivors from the Tereth side, he was not required to help them. Most soldiers would leave them to die. But the sound stirred something in him. It was not the cry of a soldier. It was higher, weaker, like the sound of a child. He followed the sound through a gap in the wall and into a small chamber half buried in rubble. The light was dim, but he could make out the shape of a broken shelter pod. Its door was bent inward, twisted by force. Inside he saw movement. At first he thought it might be a trap. The Tereth sometimes left lures to catch careless humans, but as he stepped closer, the truth became clear. A small figure crouched inside the pod, shaking. The child's skin was pale blue, faintly glowing in the dim light. Her eyes, wide with fear, reflected the faint light like glass. She was Tereth. Ryan froze. His training told him to step back, to report, to treat her as part of the enemy. Yet she looked so fragile, so different from the fierce soldiers he had faced in battle. She was trembling, clutching something close to her chest, and tears ran down her cheeks. This was not a warrior. This was a child who had survived where many adults had not. The ground shook suddenly. A loose slab of metal above the pod groaned and slipped. Before he could think, Rian moved forward. The metal crashed down and he threw himself between it and the child. Pain struck his shoulder as the edge scraped his armor, but he managed to push the heavy piece aside before it crushed the pod completely. Dust rose around him, filling the air. When the dust cleared, he saw her staring at him. Her wide eyes were full of shock, as if she could not believe that a human soldier had shielded her. Slowly, she lowered the object she had been holding. It was a broken toy, simple and harmless. She held it the way any child might hold a last comfort after fear. Ryan knelt down, setting his weapon aside so she would not see it as a threat. He spoke softly, unsure if she could understand his language. "It is safe now. I will not harm you." The child tilted her head. Her voice was faint, broken by sobs, but he thought he heard a single word. He did not understand it, yet the meaning was clear. She was calling for her mother. Rian's chest tightened. Somewhere there might still be survivors from her people. Perhaps her mother was gone. Perhaps not. He had no way to know. All he knew was that leaving this child here felt wrong. She would not last long alone among fire, ruins, and hunger. The silence of the battlefield pressed around them, heavy and endless. Ryan knew his squad was waiting for him. He knew his commander expected only a clear report of empty ground. Yet he also knew that war had already taken too much. He looked at the child again, and something inside him made the choice for him. He reached out his hand slowly, giving her time to decide. She stared at it, hesitated, and then placed her small fingers against his glove. The touch was light, trembling, but it was trust. He lifted her carefully, holding her close. She weighed little, and she clung to him as if afraid he might disappear. Her small body shook with quiet sobs, but she did not push him away. For the first time since the war began, Ryan felt that he was carrying something worth more than orders or victories. He was carrying a life that no one else had thought to protect. He moved back through the ruins with care. Every step felt heavier, not from her weight but from the choice he had made. If his squad saw him with her, questions would rise. Some might try to take her from him. Others might demand her life end there. He did not know what they would do, but he knew he could not let harm come to her. The sky above was turning darker as night drew near. Fires glowed faintly across the field, and broken machines stood like shadows. Ryan walked through the silence, his mind turning over what this meant. He had not only saved a child, he had crossed a line that few humans would dare cross. The child's head rested against his armor. Her breath was uneven, her tears drying slowly. She had lost much, yet she still clung to him. That simple act told him more than any words could. When he reached the edge of the ruins, he paused. His squad's signal beacon flashed in the distance. They would be waiting for him to return. But he looked down at the child and he knew his path had changed. This was no longer just a mission. This was a vow, silent and unspoken, to shield her no matter what came next. The battlefield was still, yet for Ryan, the war had taken a new shape. He had protected the child of the foe, and in doing so, he had set in motion a chain of events that neither side could yet imagine. Ryan carried the child through the smoking ruins until he reached the edge of the battlefield. His steps slowed when he saw the faint glimmer of his squad's beacon. They were close, waiting for him to return with nothing but a report. He stopped, shifting his weight as the girl tightened her hold on him. She was awake, watching the horizon with wide eyes. The human soldier felt torn. He had no order to bring an enemy child. His commanders would not welcome her. Some might even call it weakness to protect her, but her small arms were wrapped around his neck, and he could not set her down. She trusted him. That meant more than orders. The night deepened. Fires from broken ships cast red light across the field. Then, without warning, another sound reached him. It was low at first, then grew louder. The heavy rhythm of engines shook the air. Ryan turned, his grip tightening on the child. From the far side of the valley, ships were approaching. Their shapes were sharp, their glow unfamiliar. They were not human craft. They were Tareth. The girl stirred in his arms. She lifted her head, eyes shining with recognition. A soft word left her lips. It was not human language, but Ryan understood. She was calling for her people. She was calling for her mother. Ryan's chest tightened. He should run. His training told him to fall back, to return to his squad, to prepare for battle. But his legs did not move. He could not hand her over to strangers, even if they were her kin. At the same time, he knew he could not stand against a fleet alone. The ship slowed, settling into the valley with great clouds of dust. From the largest craft, figures stepped out. Tall, armored, and glowing faintly in the dim light, they moved with calm power. Their weapons gleamed, but they did not raise them. Instead, they parted as a taller figure walked forward. Ryan's breath caught. This was no common soldier. The way the others bowed their heads was proof enough. This was their leader, a commander. Her presence carried weight like the silence before a storm. She removed her helmet, and her face was revealed. Her skin glowed faint blue, brighter than her soldiers', and her eyes burned like stars, yet in those eyes was not only strength but sharp intelligence. She stopped a short distance away, her gaze fixed on the child in Ryan's arms. The girl cried out, reaching toward her. The commander's expression broke, and for a moment all the weight of war fell away. She stepped forward, her voice ringing clear in the night. My child. Though Ryan did not understand every word, he felt the meaning in her tone. This was the girl's mother. The commander knelt, arms open. The child squirmed, wanting to go to her, but she did not let go of Ryan at once. She clung to him, torn between the comfort of his protection and the love of her mother. It was only when Ryan gently loosened his hold that she reached out fully. The commander pulled her close, holding her with fierce relief. For a moment, mother and daughter were lost in each other. Soldiers stood silent around them, watching with respect. Ryan lowered his weapon, not wishing to disturb the moment. Yet his mind raced. He had shielded the child. Now her mother stood before him, and he did not know what fate awaited him. When the commander rose again, she looked at him with a strange expression. Not hatred, not anger, but something else. She stepped closer, her voice low but steady. You shielded her. Ryan could not be certain if she spoke in her tongue or his, but the meaning was clear. She was not asking. She was stating a truth. Yes, he answered simply. Her eyes narrowed, studying him as though searching his soul. Why? Ryan hesitated. How could he explain? He had no grand reason, no clever plan. All he had was the truth. She was alone. She was afraid. She is a child. I could not leave her. The commander's gaze softened. Around them, her soldiers shifted uneasily. None spoke, for this was no ordinary exchange. This was their leader, standing before a human soldier, hearing words that few Tareth would believe possible. The child pressed her small hand against her mother's armor and then pointed at Ryan. The commander looked down at her daughter, then back at him. Slowly, she straightened her stance. By our law, she said with measured tone, when one shields the child of Tareth, they claim a bond. It cannot be broken. You are bound to her, and so to me. Ryan's heart pounded. He had not known such a law existed. He had not acted for honor or reward. Yet now he was caught in a web of meaning far greater than he had intended. I did not seek a bond, he said. Her voice rose, carrying authority. You did not seek it, but you made it. The child lives because of you. By our custom, her life is tied to yours. That bond is sacred, the soldiers murmured among themselves. Some looked displeased, others uncertain. But none challenged their commander's words. Ryan looked at the girl again. She was safe in her mother's arms, yet her eyes still found him. She reached out once more, as if unwilling to let him go completely. The sight silenced his doubts. Perhaps he had not chosen the bond, but it had chosen him. I accept, he said quietly. The commander studied him for a long moment, then nodded. Her expression was unreadable, but her voice carried finality. Then you are under my claim. You walk among us now. Her words sent ripples through the ranks. A human soldier, accepted by the Tareth commander, was something none had expected. Ryan felt the weight of many eyes upon him. He knew his own squad would not understand. To them, this would look like betrayal. Yet he could not take back what he had done. The commander turned to her soldiers and gave a sharp order. They formed around her, weapons lowered but ready. Then she faced Ryan once more. You will come with us. You will not be harmed. You have my word. Ryan nodded slowly. He had little choice, yet his steps were steady as he followed her toward the waiting ship. The child watched him from her mother's arms, her eyes bright, her hand still reaching. As they entered the ship, the hum of its engines filled the air. Ryan glanced back once at the human beacon glowing faint in the distance. He knew his squad would wonder why he had not returned. They would search for him. Perhaps they would think him lost. Perhaps they would think him a traitor. But as the door closed behind him and the ship lifted into the sky, he knew one thing with certainty. His life had changed. By shielding a child, he had crossed a line that war had drawn for years. He had stepped into the world of the enemy, not as a captive, but as one who carried their bond. The commander held her child close, and Ryan could feel her gaze upon him. He did not know if she saw him as an enemy, an ally, or something else entirely. All he knew was that his path was no longer his own. The ship soared higher, leaving the battlefield behind. The silence of ruins gave way to the steady pulse of engines. Ryan sat among the Tareth, a human in their midst, carrying a bond that might shape the future of both species. And though uncertainty weighed heavy, there was one truth that gave him strength. He had saved a life. For that, he would not turn back. The Tareth ship rose through the clouds and broke free of the smoke-filled sky. Ryan sat near the back, guarded on both sides by armored soldiers. None spoke to him, yet every glance carried suspicion. To them, he was still the enemy, a human soldier who did not belong. The only reason he was not in chains was because their commander had claimed him. The child sat on her mother's lap at the front of the chamber. Her eyes never left Ryan. Even when her mother whispered to her, even when soldiers moved around, her gaze always returned to him. It was as if she feared he might vanish if she looked away. Ryan tried to meet her eyes with calm, though inside he felt uncertain. The ship's hum deepened as it climbed higher. Through a narrow window, stars appeared, sharp and endless. Ryan had seen them before from human ships, but tonight they felt different. He was not traveling with his own people. He was surrounded by the very beings he had fought for years. The commander rose, carrying her daughter with one arm. She moved with a grace that demanded respect even in silence. When she reached Ryan, the guard stiffened but stepped aside. She stopped before him, her voice steady. My name is Cyril, she said. Her words were accented yet clear in his tongue. You are Ryan, he nodded. Yes, you shielded my child when you could have turned away. For that you are bound. Our law does not ask if you accept. It is already done. Ryan kept his gaze steady. I understand. Cyril studied him for a long moment. Her daughter stirred in her arms, reaching toward him. Cyril let her small hand touch his arm. A murmur ran through the guards, but Cyril silenced them with one sharp glance. "She trusts you," Cyril said. "That is rare. The Tereth do not give trust easily and never to enemies, but she looks at you as if you are her own." Ryan shifted uncomfortably. "I only did what I thought was right." Her eyes narrowed. "That is what makes it powerful." Many speak of honor. Few act without being told. She turned and returned to her seat. The child leaned against her shoulder, but her eyes remained on Ryan. He felt the weight of that gaze more than the guard's suspicion. The ship traveled for hours before docking at a larger vessel that hung in orbit. This was no small craft but a great carrier, its hull lined with glowing markings. As the smaller ship settled inside, Ryan's heart tightened. He was about to step fully into their world. When the doors opened, soldiers formed lines. Ryan was led out under watchful eyes. Cyril walked ahead holding her child. The carrier's halls glowed with soft blue light. Symbols carved into the wall shifted gently as if alive. Ryan could not read them, but he felt they carried meaning deeper than words. They reached a chamber where Cyril stopped. She placed her daughter in the care of a gentle-faced attendant, who bowed low before carrying the child away. The girl looked back, reaching again for Rian, and his chest ached as she vanished through another door. Cyril faced him. "You are under my protection now. None here will harm you while I live, but protection does not mean welcome. Many will test you. You must be strong." "I will endure," Ryan said quietly. Cyril tilted her head. "We shall see." She gave a command and 2 guards stepped forward. "Take him to quarters. Watch him. He is bound, not a prisoner. Remember that." The guards led Ryan through winding corridors. His quarters were small but clean, with a low bed and faint light from a crystal set into the wall. The door closed behind him, locking with a hiss. He sat on the bed, the silence heavy. For the first time since the battlefield, he was truly alone. Hours passed. He tried to rest, but his thoughts would not calm. He remembered his squad, the beacon he had left behind. What would they think? That he had fallen? That he had betrayed them? And what of Cyril's words? Bound, not a prisoner. Could he believe that? The door opened suddenly. A guard entered, holding a tray of food. The meal was strange, glowing faintly with soft light. The guard set it down without a word and left. Hunger gnawed at him, but he hesitated. Was it safe? After a moment, he took a small bite. The taste was sharp but clean, filling him with unexpected warmth. He had eaten little when the door opened again. This time it was not a guard. It was Cyril. She entered without hesitation, standing tall in the small space. "You are uneasy," she said. Rian stood. "I am among enemies." "Should I not be?" Her lips curved slightly, not quite a smile. "Perhaps. But you are also among those who now owe you." "That changes much," he frowned. "Do they see it that way?" "Not all," she admitted. "Some believe you should not be here. Some think I am foolish for claiming you, but I have seen your choice. You protected life when war told you to destroy it. That is rare. Even among my own." She stepped closer, her gaze sharp. "Tell me, Ryan, do humans fight only to win, or do they fight for more?" He held her eyes. "We fight to survive, but also for each other. Even when hope is small, we hold on." Cyril studied him, then gave a slow nod. "Then perhaps we are not as different as many believe." She left as suddenly as she had come, leaving Ryan with thoughts heavier than before. He lay awake long into the night, wondering what path he had stepped onto. The next day, he was taken to a larger hall where soldiers trained. Their movements were sharp and precise, their weapons gleaming with energy. When he entered, all eyes turned to him. Whispers filled the room. A human among them was not welcome. One soldier stepped forward, tall and broad, his armor marked with scars. He spoke sharply, pointing at Ryan. The others laughed, their voices hard. Ryan understood enough. The soldier was challenging him. A guard placed a training staff in Ryan's hands. It was heavier than human weapons, the balance strange. The soldier across from him raised his own. The room grew quiet. The fight began. The soldier struck fast, forcing Ryan back. The staff rang with each blow. Ryan's arms burned, but he held firm. He had trained for years, and though the weapon was strange, skill guided him. He shifted his stance, waited, and struck back. The clash echoed through the hall. Sweat dripped down his brow. The soldier pressed harder, but Ryan refused to fall. At last he saw an opening. He twisted, driving his staff against the soldier's side. The force sent the Tereth stumbling. Silence followed. The soldier straightened, breathing hard. For a moment, anger flashed in his eyes. Then, slowly, he struck his chest with his fist, a sign of respect. The others murmured, some surprised, some still doubtful. But none laughed now. Saral had been watching from the edge. She stepped forward, her eyes unreadable. "You hold your ground well." Ryan lowered the staff. "I do what I must." Her gaze lingered on him, then shifted to her soldiers. "Remember this. Strength is not only in form, but in will. He has both." From that day, the whispers did not vanish, but they softened. Ryan was still watched, still doubted, but he was no longer dismissed as weak. The bond he carried with the child had given him place. His strength had given him voice. At night, he returned to his small quarters, weary but alive. He thought of the child, of her trust. He thought of Saral, of her questions. And he thought of his people far away who would not know he lived. Between two worlds, Ryan walked a path none had before. Bound by choice, tested by suspicion, he stood at the heart of a story greater than himself. And though the future was uncertain, one truth guided him still. He had shielded a life, and that life bound him now to a fate that could change the war itself. The days on the Tereth carrier turned into weeks. Ryan slowly grew used to the rhythm of their world. The deep hum of the engines became a constant background, and the faint blue glow of the walls no longer seemed strange. Yet each day carried new challenges. He was still a human among enemies. Training in the hall became a regular trial. At first, soldiers came to test him, eager to see him fall. But Ryan endured each challenge. He was not always the victor, but he never surrendered. That persistence won respect. Some still looked at him with suspicion, but others began to nod in quiet recognition. One morning, as he left the hall, he saw Saral waiting. She stood with her daughter, who ran forward as soon as she spotted him. The little one's laughter filled the corridor. She clutched a small crystal in her hands, holding it out proudly. "She wanted you to see it," Saral said as Ryan knelt. The child placed the crystal in his palm. It glowed faintly, pulsing with a rhythm like a heartbeat. Ryan smiled, handing it back carefully. "It is beautiful," he said. The girl grinned and hugged him tightly before returning to her mother. Saral's gaze softened as she watched. "She trusts you more each day," Saral said. "Her heart was broken by the war, but you gave her light again." "That is not something I can repay," Ryan rose. "I did not ask for repayment." Her eyes narrowed, thoughtful. "That is why it matters." They walked together through the corridor. Soldiers stepped aside, whispering. Ryan could feel their eyes, but ignored them. His steps matched Saral's, and the child held both their hands, small fingers linking them. For a brief moment, it felt almost like peace. But peace was fragile. That evening, alarms sounded across the carrier. Lights flashed red, and the halls filled with shouts. Ryan rushed to a viewing port and froze. Human ships had arrived. Not scouts, not patrols, a full strike force. Their engines burned bright against the dark, their weapons charged. The humans had found the Tereth carrier, and they were not here for talks. Ryan's chest tightened. His people were out there, ready for battle. They believed they were striking an enemy. They did not know that he was here. And inside the carrier, soldiers rushed to stations preparing to defend. Saral appeared, armored and commanding. Her daughter clung to her side, eyes wide with fear. When she saw Ryan, she strode over. "The humans have come," she said. "They think to break us. We will not fall easily." Ryan's thoughts raced. "You must understand. They do not know. To them, you are only the enemy." Her eyes flashed. "And what am I to you, Ryan? Enemy or ally?" He struggled for words. You are more. You are a mother who loves her child. You are a leader who seeks strength. I cannot see you as only an enemy." Saral studied him, then spoke sharply. "Then you must choose. When the battle begins, you cannot stand in two worlds. You must decide where you belong." The words struck him like a blade. He thought of his squad, his commanders, the years he had fought under their banner. But he also thought of the child's hand in his, of her trust, of Saral's steady gaze. His heart pulled in both directions. The ship shook suddenly as the first human strike hit its shields. The sound of war returned, thunderous and consuming. Sirens blared and soldiers rushed past them. Saral pulled her daughter close. "I must lead," she said. She looked at Ryan with a mixture of command and something softer. "Stay with her. Protect her as you did before. That is your place." Ryan nodded without hesitation. He took the child's hand as Saral turned and strode into the storm of orders and flashing lights. The battle outside raged. Through the viewing ports, Rian saw ships weaving through fire. Explosions lit the void and debris scattered like burning stars. The humans pressed hard, but the Tereth carrier held strong, its shields glowing bright. The child pressed against him, trembling. Rian knelt, speaking softly. "It will be all right. I will keep you safe." She looked up at him with trust shining in her eyes, and his resolve hardened. Hours passed as the battle dragged on. The carrier shook again and again, each impact rattling the halls. Soldiers moved in lines, calm but fierce, following Saral's voice as she directed them. She moved like a blade, sharp and sure, and her presence gave her people strength. Rian watched from a distance, the child clinging to him. He could see Saral's determination, her refusal to yield, yet he also saw the cost. Both sides were breaking themselves against each other, neither willing to stop. When the fighting eased for a brief moment, Saral returned. Her armor was scorched, her breath heavy, but her eyes still burned with fire. She looked at Rian, then at her daughter, who rushed into her arms. Rian spoke carefully. "Saral, this cannot last. If humans and Tereth continue, both will fall. There must be another way." She held her daughter close. "Another way? Do your leaders seek peace? Or do they only seek victory?" Rian hesitated. "I do not know. But I know this, if we never try, the war will never end." Her eyes locked on his. For a long time, neither spoke. Finally, she said, "If you believe so, then prove it. Speak to them. Show them you are alive. Show them that even in war we can choose differently." The idea filled Rian with both hope and fear. If he reached out, his commanders might hear him. But they might also brand him a traitor. Still, he could not ignore her words. He had shielded the child. Perhaps now he must shield more than one life. The carrier shook again, pulling them back into reality. Saral placed her daughter in his arms. "Guard her," she said firmly. "No matter what happens. Promise me." Rian met her gaze. "I promise." She turned and strode back into battle, her presence a pillar of strength. Rian held the child close, her small hands gripping his armor. He whispered softly, more to himself than to her, "I will not fail you. Not now. Not ever." Outside, the void burned with fire and light. The war pressed on, but within the heart of the storm, one soldier carried a choice that might shape what came after. The carrier shook as another wave of human fire struck its shields. The walls groaned and sparks scattered through the hallways. Rian held the child tightly, shielding her with his body. Her small arms clung to him, her eyes wide with fear. He whispered calm words, but his own heart was heavy. The humans were pressing harder. They had seen weakness, and they wanted victory. The Tereth resisted with all their strength, but even Rian could see that both sides were bleeding. The battle would not end with one side whole. Saral's voice rang through the command channels, sharp and commanding. She gave orders without hesitation, moving her fleets into tight formations. Her skill held the carrier together. Without her, the humans might already have broken through. But Rian knew this fight could not go on. Each strike, each explosion, only pulled both sides deeper into ruin. He had lived the war from the human side. Now he had seen it from the Tereth side as well. And he knew the truth. Neither side would stop until someone forced a choice. The child tugged on his armor, whispering her mother's name. Rian's chest ached. He had promised Saral he would protect her daughter. But he also carried another promise, one unspoken. If he had the chance to end this war, he had to try. He rose, guiding the child toward a quiet chamber. A guard blocked his way at first, but the girl's presence opened the path. The soldiers might doubt him, but they could not deny the bond. Inside the chamber stood a comm device. Its surface glowed, waiting for activation. Rian hesitated only a moment before placing his hand against it. The crystal hummed, and the screen lit with static. He entered the human codes he still remembered, his fingers steady. The static cleared, and a human officer appeared. The man's eyes widened in shock. "Rian, you are alive?" Rian nodded. "Yes, but listen carefully. You must stop this attack. If you continue, you will destroy not only the Tereth, but yourselves as well." The officer frowned. "You are on their ship? Are you their prisoner?" "I am not a prisoner," Rian said firmly. I saved a child, their commander's child. By their law, I am bound to her. I live among them now. I have seen them. They are not only warriors, they are people like us. The officer's expression hardened. You speak like you have forgotten your duty. They are the enemy. We cannot trust them. Ryan's voice rose. I have not forgotten my duty. My duty is to protect life, not to destroy it without reason. I shielded a child when war told me to kill her. That choice showed me something. If we can protect even one life across the line, then we can choose another path. The officer shook his head. The commanders will not listen to this. They see only the chance to win. Then show them me, Ryan said. Show them I live. Let them see the truth in my eyes. If they trust me at all, they must hear this. The Tereth are not what they believe. If we continue, there will be no victory, only ashes. Before the officer could answer, another voice filled the chamber. Saral had entered silently, her presence commanding. She placed her daughter gently beside Ryan and stepped into view of the screen. I am Saral, commander of this fleet, she said. Her voice was calm, but carried strength. Your soldier speaks the truth. He saved my daughter when he could have left her to die. He risked himself for life that was not his own. That choice binds him to us. If humans can act so, then perhaps we are not as different as war has taught us. The officer stared, words caught in his throat. The sight of a Tereth commander standing beside a human soldier was something no one expected. Saral's eyes burned with conviction. We can continue this war until both our people are broken, or we can stop now. Not as enemies, as survivors who have seen enough death. The screen flickered as higher command joined the line. A stern voice filled the chamber. This is Admiral Corrin. Rian, is it truly you? Yes, Admiral, Rian said. I am alive. I speak freely. I ask you to listen. I have fought for our people with all my strength, but I have seen the Tereth with my own eyes. They fight as we do, not for conquest, but for survival. If we keep striking, we will destroy ourselves. The silence that followed was heavy. At last, the Admiral spoke. You ask much, soldier, but your words carry weight. I will call for ceasefire. Temporary. To hear more. Do not waste this chance. The screen darkened. The hum of weapons outside faded as orders spread. The human ships slowed, their fire ceasing. The Tereth carrier held position, shields dimming as silence returned to the void. Ryan let out a long breath. The child clutched his hand, her small smile shining through the tension. Saral looked at him, her face unreadable, then spoke softly. You have done what even I could not. You made them see. Rian shook his head. We did it together. The days that followed were filled with uneasy talks. Human envoys met with Tereth leaders aboard neutral ground. At first, suspicion ruled every word. Old wounds rose like shadows, but each time anger threatened to break. The talks. Someone remembered the story of the soldier who shielded a child. That story spread, whispered through fleets and stations. A human who saved the daughter of a Tereth commander. A commander who claimed him by law instead of striking him down. A bond formed in war that spoke louder than all weapons. Rian stood often beside Saral in those meetings, not as soldier or prisoner, but as living proof that choice was possible. The child would run between them, her laughter softening even the hardest faces. Slowly, walls began to fall. At last, both sides agreed to a fragile peace. Not friendship yet, not full trust, but the first step forward. Ships withdrew, weapons lowered, and silence spread across the stars. When the final accord was signed, Saral stood with her daughter and looked at Rian. Your choice changed more than one life. It changed the path of two peoples. Ryan looked back, his voice steady. I only did what felt right. If it led us here, then it was worth everything. The child pressed both their hands together, her smile bright. In that moment, Ryan felt hope like a rising star. The war was not over forever, but peace had begun. And it had begun with one simple act on a broken battlefield. when a soldier chose to shield instead of strike. The galaxy would remember that choice, not as legend, but as the truth of what humans could be. Humanity had always been underestimated. Many called them fragile, reckless, too new to the stars. But now they had shown something the galaxy could not ignore: the strength to protect even those who once were called foe. The first step forward had been taken, and from that step, a new path would grow.